Hello everyone, and today we are going to be continuing to look at a scenario where civilization starts over. Now, this is the third episode of this series, so if you haven't seen the first two, I'd recommend going to see them so you can get caught up on the story. If not, then you'll just kind of have to catch up on your own. But without further ado, I say we just get into it, continuing where we left off last time, over here in the British Isles. As we as we saw not too long ago, this green lime country recently discovered the British Isles. They saw it from their original home over here in, like Dunkirk area, and they just continue their expansion, their exploration of the main island, England, Scotland, Wales, basically discovering the entire thing and kind of being able to just take it all um, as their own, kind of pushing up, not taking a lot of it, but engulfing much of southern England and getting all of Wales before kind of calling it there on their expansions. Now, further east, out in the out in Asia, we have these Indian countries who, being kind of helped with by the pink country, continue exploring along the coast of Asia and discover all the way down into kind of Malaysia, Singapore area before continuing to head back up through Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. Now they're being forced to stick along the coast here as the dense jungles and just harsh environments of the Southeast Asian countries makes it pretty difficult for them to establish any really explorations through that area. As in Europe, we see more explorations north of the Caspian out through Finland, where they kind of discover the end of the Finnish peninsula, that kind of general area, as a large part, a large chunk of Russia now, basically to the border of the Ural Mountains, has been discovered. So at this point, most of Europe has been discovered, not, occupied by countries. But we are going to see the first country making some bigger expansions as the pink country continues to grow their boundaries a little bit further north up through, Turkmenistan, that area. As we see the cyan country um, continuing their growth down the African coast, with better naval technology in recent years after having broken away from the Pink Nation. They also occupy that island outside of Somalia. And then finally, this Egyptian country kind of connects up to their, extending their borders, their confines a bit wider and along down through there. We see the Orange Country making some expansions out east, but not much. We see the kind of Latvian nation making big expanses out. We see the Finnish Estonian kind of country expanding more up through Finland, growing quite large as they encircle that lake around, the St. Petersburg area. We see just generally a lot of expansion. We see this kind of Georgian country expanding up through into Russia. But when news of islands over here break, we see the Danish country, wrong layer. They send out voyages from their Norwegian land, out from their Norwegian lands to come over here and steal up this land away from the Lime Green Nation. They take basically all of it that wasn't taken by the Lime Green Nation, and the Lime Green Nation pulls up a little bit further their mortar, moving it up north. As we see the Swedish nation continuing their kind of expanse north, their growth, Not too much though, as the cold really starts to set in the further north they get. As most of you should hopefully know, that this green country was, the descendants of a former Arabian nation, so they're definitely not acclimatized to the colder weather. Now we have some skirmishes within the German area, as we see this darker blue country, which believes themselves to be the country in this area out of all of these kind of 6 countries. They were the first, but countries just kind of broke off before they got a chance. And so they expand out rapidly into this lighter blue country, and basically with little to no resistance are able to take it over. Similarly, with this gray country, they continue to establish their dominance in the German area, taking over there. But now these countries, being protected by the countries up north, they're kind of hesitant to move up, and that's what happens. They don't move any further north, and so that's kind of where this all halts. But then we have a civil war breaking out over here in Spain. Why is that color so similar? Um, we have the northern part of this formerly Portuguese country breaking away, just wanting to be their own thing. It's just how some things happen. They break away. Border skirmishes between the two to, try and establish a border, but in the end, neither of them are really strong enough to fight each other and be consistent and good enough at that. So now moving back over to Asia, we see this country. They annexed Sri Lanka. That's about it. But then we see another big issue, as this pink country, we see another piece of land breaking away from it over here in kind of Iraq. Now that country, the pink country, the, Iran country, has been one of the biggest countries, was the third ever country, but their expansionist ideas are what is slowly hindering them, as we saw with the pink country. They once stretched from Oman to, over to Algeria, but now with people not liking that, people break away, people split off, and that's actually what we see happen in England. We see, just as quickly as they colonized the land, we see the people breaking away. No, I did not want to do that, but that color's too similar. But basically, a bunch of countries over here in the British Isles, in England, in Wales, break away from their lime green rulers to become their own thing. The lime green area is able to hold on to their own little piece down in the south bit of the British island, but after a short bit of time, they suffer that piece even breaking away from them, as now 6 new countries have just formed on the British Isles. Actually 7, when one kind of breaks away from the southern Danish area, but that's about it. That breaks away. Nobody else is really willing to kind of go through with that. And the lime green country not wanting to spend a lot of money to go deal with this, they just let it happen. They let these guys go free, and it's whatever, as the Danes kind of continue their expansions northward up along the coast of Norway, following the Swedish north in their expansions. But now we see our first, like, kind of fighting civil war, as we see a country in kind of Kaliningrad, Lithuania area break away from the Orange country, splitting away just due to kind of not major cultural differences, but major cultural differences. I know that's kind of a bad way to put it. But the Orange Country, not wanting to let this piece of land go, they immediately push up to reclaim any coastal areas, and then they push along the south. Now, this Latvian country, seeing a chance to grow their sphere of influence in the Baltics, jump in on this war, taking big chunks out of the eastern part of this kind of Lithuanian country, expanding rapidly and taking a lot of land. As then we see the Orange Country re-engulf the rest of their nation, but they unfortunately lost about half of that territory anyways due to the Latvian intervention. But the Orange Country not wanting to get into a war with a country that they don't know too well, they don't know how powerful this Latvian country is, they don't really get involved, don't deal with it, they don't try to do any of that. Now, we have a second rebellion in Greece. We see, for again the second time, we see in Bulgaria, this Greek kind of country. This is about it. A lot less than last time, but this little bit of land right here tries to kind of break away. And this time, no one really interjects. That's just kind of a not really important thing to worry about. There's no reason for any of them to worry about that piece of land. Nobody was using it anyways. The only major thing in this area is the city, Constantinople kind of city. So they let that piece of land go, and the Greeks, obviously, I guess it's not really the Greeks, but, those people are upset for sure that they don't have, their full extent of land they wanted, but this Albanian nation being much stronger than them, they just didn't even bother trying to interject and get involved with that country that I don't think they thought they would beat. So, moving away from Europe, we're gonna continue to see big, massive expansions over in Southeast Asia. They kind of interpret that there's nothing important over here. They discover much of this water. They continue up the Chinese coast. Actually getting a ton of exploration done as they discover the Korean Peninsula, and that's about where they kind of call their explorations north. Some people kind of interpret that this area is, that's land. What else is going to be there? Giant lake that they didn't see before. But we see our first country over in Asia forming, as we see a kind of dark purple country. Wrong layer. As we see a dark purple kind of country forming on this peninsula over in China, establishing themselves as a pretty large nation, not extremely big, but as a fairly important nation for the future, controlling a major part of the ports and whatnot. And they quickly make expansions up the coast over into the Korean Peninsula, where they kind of stop their explorations and prioritize their naval work, and they fully discover and adapt to their coast in that area, telling the people over here about it, because these people kind of came from here. They originated from these Indian countries, so you might as well tell them what you found. And so that's what happens. They tell them about all that, and that's about it. So now we kind of just see more expansion eastward. There isn't really much gonna happen this time, as a lot of countries kind of continue to expand their spheres of influence, wanting to get resources in these lands that they know are out there. So, this Latvian country continues its expanses out east. This Finnish country up here continues its slight and gradual expansions up the Finnish coast through Finland. We see this kind of southern Ukraine, northern Romania country continuing their expansion. And yeah, that's a lot of what's gonna happen over in this area, but what we do see, we see finally the Germans deciding they're just gonna take action, um, going in and invading this dark purple country, massively outnumbering it, taking it over. But the Danish country, not happy about this, goes in kind of pushing, taking some lands, but they decide that they're just going to stay out of the affairs in this part of Germany. Because what happens is, again, these people don't want to be in the same country. They don't like each other. And so we see, again, little bits and pieces of countries breaking away from this blue one outside of, like, its home area, and it's back to ground zero for these guys. They just did all that work invading those 3 countries. It's back to ground zero with completely new people, completely new governments. Now down in Africa, more in Iberia, we see a big breakaway. We see the Iberian Peninsula piece of kind of the, Carthage country break away, taking over the islands and the kind of top of Morocco. Now, Carthage is unhappy about this. They were just like the #1 naval power in the area, so immediately they begin to step in, they begin to try and stop this invasion, but with this Iberian nation holding all the important ports, they're unable to do anything. They could try and flank out around this way, try and go into uncharted waters that way to encircle them from one of the other countries, but unfortunately that's just not a viable option for them. And so now we see officially the end of kind of Middle Eastern countries controlling land in multiple continents, other than, I guess Turkey, kind of, and Albania over here, but you understand what I'm saying? So, through all of that, just a lot of change and differences, but we have one more thing we have to get to before the end of this, and that starts with this. The Dutch, no, that is not what I want to do. We see the Dutch exploring the rest of the sea out here, discovering, wow, there's nothing here. It's just a bunch of water. And then the Dutch do something unexpected of them. They've been a relatively peaceful kind of just their nation, and they send many naval ships over to the red country in England, and they completely take it over and occupy it for themselves, including this part of England, to set up their own kind of domination or dominance, sphere of influence, whatever you want to call it, in the English area in the British Isles, as they set up their own little sphere. And that's about it for now. If you, for some reason, weren't paying attention this entire time, here's a quick recap on everything that happened. We saw a lot of countries breaking away. We saw some failed attempts at expansion. We saw the discovery of a historically important island in real life. We saw the exploration of China and Asia. And finally, we saw just a lot and lot and lot of expansion, as humanity not they aren't aware in this universe, but we know they're getting close to discovering basically all they can for a while, And that's when the tide's going to shift from an age of exploration to an age of destruction with war, battles, sieges, and conquest. Basically, every day you talk to your neighbor, they'll tell you about every war that's happened in the last 3 days. Hint, you could probably write a 20-page essay about it. So now, if you want to see more, go ahead, go down, like, and subscribe. And if you want to see any ideas about or for this series, go ahead, comment down below. I try to incorporate any ideas, but obviously, I have to get ideas before I can add them. So that's why I'm asking you. I just need some ideas, and I can add them in. I will credit you and everything like that. So, again, like and subscribe if you want to see more. Drop a comment down below if you want to see a suggestion for yourself. And I will see you hopefully in episode 4 of my What If Civilization Started Over series.